It's been described as Japan's treasure island. According to tourist information, Sado Island was first inhabited 10,000 years ago and has a rich history of gold and silver mining, in addition to being designated in the past as an island of exile. The Visit Sado website also tells a darker story mentioning the graves of forced labourers who died on Sado in the 1800s. What isn't mentioned is that much later, during World War II, Imperial Japan forced thousands of Koreans to do high-risk mining work on Sado, which was then used to secure war materials like copper, iron and zinc. And what's causing great concern over here is that Japan is now pushing to have Sado's mining complex recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Based on recent comments from Japanese officials, the location was already recommended by Japan in 2010, a submission that can be found on the UNESCO website. The description there includes the claim that Sado features exceedingly rare physical evidence of human history that can no longer be found at other mines in the Asian region. But again, the accompanying text of nearly 2,000 words overlooks the abuse suffered by Korean forced labourers. Any decision on actually adding Sado to UNESCO's list will be made in 2023, and you'd think neutral observers would factor in the history of pain there. Yet that didn't stop the notorious Hashima, or Battleship Island, from being approved as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2015 as a symbol of Japanese industrialization. That also happened years after Japan submitted a request in 2009. Both South and North Korea opposed the listing then because of the forced labor issue that also overshadows the history of Battleship Island. South Korea actually withdrew its opposition after Japan agreed to remember those forced to work under harsh conditions at the island, and later in 2018, a UNESCO committee found that Japan had failed to keep its promise and urged the country to commemorate forced labor victims. And again this year, UNESCO continued to call on Japan to ensure visitors to Battleship Island are told about its history of forced labor. A common thread through both the Sado and Battleship Island stories is Mitsubishi, which operated mines at both locations and which has been at the heart of years of legal battles involving former victims of forced labor and their relatives. Just this year, a landmark ruling in South Korea ordered the sale of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries assets in this country. But what happens outside Korea is much harder to influence. Former Japanese Foreign Minister Fumio-Kishida, now Prime Minister, told reporters back in 2015 that a Japanese UNESCO delegate's admission of workers being forced to work under harsh conditions did not mean forced labor. And it's the softening and denial of history that continues to cause pain today, standing in the way of future relations between Seoul and Tokyo.